Hello everyone, welcome back to Believers IAS Academy, Bengaluru. This is the 400 plus GS series for mains. Today we will discuss committees related to GS-3. Okay, in the previous video we discussed committees related to infrastructure and agriculture. We covered them very holistically with their recommendations, keywords, and where it can be used. So today, in the same line, we'll discuss committees on economic development relevant for GS3. After this, we'll continue with the GS3 and we'll discuss science and technology, environment and ecology, and disaster management with a stipulated amount of time. So important committees on economic development GS3. Subtopic is Indian economy and planning. The committee is Niti Aayog's 15-year vision document task force of 2017. The context, replacing 5-year plans with a new vision strategy which is up to 15 years. So important recommendations: long-term vision aligned with sustainable development goals, sector-specific targets, state-specific growth models, and focus on innovation. And the mnemonic is VSIT, meaning vision, states, innovation, and targets. So this has been already implemented by Niti Aayog at the moment. So the 15-year framework has been implemented in India instead of the usual 5-year plans. Okay, next, the second important committee in this regard is BK Chaturvedi Committee on Restructuring Planning Commission. A very old one. Now it is redundant, you can say, because Niti Aayog has already replaced this planning commission. The main aim was to transition from planning commission to Niti Aayog. The recommendations were promoting cooperative federalism, performance-based grants, reduce central plan expenditure, and state-specific priorities. Next is S. Chakravarti Committee in 1985. The context was review of Indian monetary system and planning. The recommendations were control inflation, price stability as priority, balance between growth and stability, and strengthening credit delivery. These recommendations are still relevant to this day. Okay, are still relevant to this day because we are still facing with the issue of inflation. We are still finding it hard to stabilize the price. We are still finding it difficult to find a balance between growth and stability, and also we are still finding it difficult in strengthening the credit delivery. So these Chakravarti Committee recommendations are still very relevant to this day. Next, with respect to mobilization of resources, the important committee here is Kelkar Committee on Public-Private Partnerships. Aim was to boost private investment in infrastructure. The recommendations were risk sharing rebalancing between the government or the public and the private. Next, swift dispute resolution mechanisms to resolve dispute between the government and the private institutions, revive stalled projects, and transparency in contract so that we can avoid corruption related issues. So Kelkar Committee recommendations are again very relevant to this day as well. Next, Kelkar Committee on Tax Reforms in 2002. Aim was modernize direct and indirect taxes, reduce exemptions, widen tax base, simplify structure, and GST introduction. Okay, this is again in news because recently new income tax number 2 bill was passed by both Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha. Now it is in front of President. Okay, this new income tax came with a provision of simple. The core theory was simple, that is simplified, modern, P is planned, L is I am not able to recall it, and E is promotion of economy. So these things are almost similar to the recommendations provided by Kelkar Committee. Okay, so we can say the Kelkar Committee recommendations were implemented in or included in new income tax bill of 2025. Next is Vijay Kelkar FRBM Review Committee, again the Kelkar Committee of 2016. Aim was for fiscal discipline. What is FRBM? Fiscal Responsibility and Balancing Act. Okay. Aim was fixed debt to GDP targets, medium term fiscal framework, escape clause for shocks, and then fiscal councils. All these things were recommended by Vijay Kelkar Committee, and now there is a demand for establishment of fiscal council so that it addresses the issues related to fiscal responsibility and budget management. Okay. Next, with respect to growth, development, and employment, important committee is Ajit Kumar Seth Committee on Skill Development 2015. This committee becomes very important in the current context because there is an issue with respect to unemployment and unemployability. This is the dual crisis that India is going through at the moment, which many consider to be a root cause if at all India fails to achieve this demographic dividend and turn it into demographic disaster. So, in order to address this unemployment and unemployability, what is the need of the hour? It is skill development. Okay, so the skill development recommendations are given by Ajit Kumar Seth Committee. Aim is strengthening National Skill Development Mission. The recommendations were setting up of sector skill councils, state-based skill missions, industry linkages, and quality certification. Okay, so very important recommendations, again relevant to this day as well. In this industry linkages, we can also add one more point that industry should move from just a mere recruiter to enabler. Okay, so that we can address the issue of unemployability. Okay, next, Abid Hussain Committee on Trade Policy 1984, a very archaic in nature, not very relevant, but just have an idea about it. With respect to export growth and liberalization, the recommendations were reduce tariff, promote SEZs, incentives for exporters, and remove quantitative restrictions. Next is Rangarajan Committee on Employment Generation, again relevant to this dual crisis. Strategies for job creation. The recommendations are promote labor intensive manufacturing, rural infrastructure boost, MSME credit access, and skill training. So LRMS, this can also be very important in current context. Next is with respect to inclusive growth, and the important committees are Nachiket More Committee on Financial Inclusion. The Nachiket More Committee was very significant and was always in use whenever it comes to financial inclusion. Aim was expanding the banking to unbanked sectors. Okay, next, aim was or the recommendations were universal bank accounts by 2016, payment banks. This has been achieved at the moment. So many of the payments banks such as Paytm Payment Bank, Post Office Payment Bank, PhonePe Payment Bank, etc. have been established already. Next, priority sector credit. Next, use of Aadhaar card for KYC norms. All these things have been applied and implemented by Government of India under Nachiket More Committee recommendations. Next is Raghuram Rajan Committee on Financial Sector Reforms. It was on inclusive finance. The recommendations were promoting financial literacy, expand banking outreach, develop corporate bond market, very important recommendations, and reduce statutory liquid ratio and current reserve ratio. Okay, so when you reduce statutory liquid ratio and current reserve ratio, it is going to increase the money supply. Okay, there will be more money at the hands of the banks. Now the banks can lend to more people and more people can buy the or take the money from the banks and then they can invest in the economy. Okay, so these are the recommendations of Raghuram Rajan Committee recommendations. Next is CN Gupta Committee on Unorganized Sector, very important. This unorganized sector is in news very recently because of the issue of gig worker and platformization. So this is very important. Aim was for providing social security for informal sectors or informal workers. The recommendations were providing universal health coverage, pensions for unrecognized workers, skill upbringing or upgrading, and minimum wage guarantee. Okay, this minimum wage guarantee is also the principle behind Nyaya, which was mooted by Raga. Okay, Rahul Gandhi. Sorry, Rahul Gandhi. So he mooted for Nyaya that provided universal basic income. So this is the recommendations of Sen Gupta Committee on unorganized sector. These recommendations can also be expanded to gig workers as well. Okay. Next, with respect to government budgeting. First is the F.R. Khan Budget Committee on Budget Accounting 1970s. Aim was modernizing the budgeting. The recommendations were program budgeting, outcome based allocations, performance audit, mid year review. If you see the recommendations, you might think these are still the need of the hour. Because there is no performance budgeting and there is no outcome based allocations, there is no performance audit, and there is no mid year review in current budgeting system. So these recommendations are very relevant and you can use PFR committee recommendations in your way forward. Next is C. Rangarajan Expenditure Management Commission. Aim is to reduce wasteful spending. How do you address this wasteful spending? One is cap on subsidies, outcome linked funding, reducing revenue deficit, and improving the procurement. All these things could address the issue of this above issues. Okay. Next is Bimal Jalal Committee on Economic Capital Framework 2018. Aim is RBI reserve transfer to government. Aim is, or the recommendations were risk buffer for RBI, surplus distribution policy, contingency reserves, and transparency framework. Okay, whatever the RBI earns from various of its works, whatever it earns, it has certain reserves. Okay, these reserves can be or must be in certain cases transferred to government. So this recommendation, that is Bimal Jalan Committee, talked about recommendations regarding risk buffer for RBI. Instead of sending or spending all the risk to the government, you can maintain certain risk buffer so that in the future when this risk breaches a certain amount of limit, then you can use this money, that this buffer can be used there in that case. Surplus distribution policy and contingency reserve and transportation framework. So all these were the recommendations and important committee with respect to economic development. Okay, now we will move on to science and technology. So important committees with respect to science and technology is Technology Information Forecasting and Assessment Council, that is TIFAC. The contest was DST's foresight body for tech roadmaps like Vision 2020, Vision 2035. And the important recommendations are self-reliance in active pharmaceutical ingredients, that is APIs, mega drug clusters and manufacturing hubs, chemical industry upgrades with alternate feedbacks, adoption of advanced manufacturing techs like biocatalyst, membranes, and cryogenics. All these recommendations were provided by TIFAC. Very important with respect to science and technology. Next is National Innovation Foundation. It promotes grassroots and traditional innovations, and it was established in 2000. The innovation recommendations are document and protect grassroots innovations, provide incubation and funding to these grassroots innovations, connect innovator to markets, and set up fab labs for rapid growth or rapid prototyping. Next is APJ Abdul Kalam Committee or Vision 2020 Committee. The aim was roadmap for making India a developed nation by 2020, and unfortunately or sadly we are not able to achieve this developer status by 2022. The recommendations were science and tech led economic growth, food, health and energy security, indigenous defense and space technology, investment in education and innovation. All these things were recommended by APJ Abdul Kalam Committee or APJ Abdul Kalam's vision. However, these have not been implemented. As a result, the dream of Abdul Kalam remains a dream itself. Next is Scientific Advisory Committee to the Cabinet, also called as SACC. So it is apex advisory body to the PM or Cabinet on science and tech policy. The recommendations are prioritize frontier research funding, integrate science and technology in development planning, promote academia industry governance collaboration, bring resource development in STEM. Very important recommendations. Okay, next is K. Kasturirangan Committee on Space Policy. This is with respect to space technology. With respect to space technology, the K. Kasturirangan Committee on Space Policy talked about reviewing India's space policy framework. The recommendations were encourage private sector participation in space tech, expand commercial satellite launches, strengthen ISRO industry collaboration, draft comprehensive national space law. All these things were very important and very relevant for the current context as well. So this encouraging the private participation or private sector participation has been very fruitful. Okay, as we can see with respect to Dhruva's Leap on mission and Karnataka or Bengaluru's AI startup or important startup set up its own first private satellite constellation. Okay, so the Kasturirangan Committee on Space Policy have been largely achieved in India. Next, with respect to information technology, computers, robotics, and AI. So, RBI Committee on Artificial Intelligence in Finance, chaired by Pushpak Bhattacharya to draft AI adoption framework. Recommendations were develop AI infrastructure for finance, AI oversight and audit mechanisms, dedicated AI innovation funding, integrate AI with UPI for digital platforms. Very important recommendations. Next is with respect to nanotechnology. Nanotechnology Mission Advisory Group is the committee. This advises on India's national nano mission. Recommendations are establish nanotech research centers, promoting industrial applications in electronics, medicines, and energy, training skilled manpower, and develop safe handling and regulatory norms. So, this way we can not only improve the nanotechnology in India but also address the issues which are associated with nanotechnology. Next is with respect to biotechnology. The committee is Biotechnology Task Force. The context is guides India's biotechnology growth. Recommendations are focusing on indigenous vaccines and drug development, biotech clusters and research parks, strengthening the biosafety rules, and support biotechnology startups. Very important, even relevant to this day as well. Okay, next is with respect to intellectual property rights. The important committee here is Mashelkar Committee on IPR 2023 2003 becomes very important for you. Context is it reviewed patent law compliance with the TRIPS and public interest. And the important recommendations are ensure access to affordable medicine, strengthen traditional knowledge digital library, balance innovation with the public health, train patent examiners in emerging technologies. Okay, so with respect to next one is the CSIR, that is Council of Scientific and Industrial Research. It is the largest sector and research and development body. The global patented portfolio. Okay, next recommendations are increase patent filings and commercialization, strengthen industry research linkages, promote scientist recognition through the awards and build global research collaboration. Okay, so today these two topics we'll be discussing, and tomorrow all the GS3 topics: environment and ecology, pollution control and environment, EIA, disaster management, internal security, and all the committees will be discussed in just one video. Okay, so just to avoid the exhaustion in a particular video, I'm stopping this topic for I'm stopping this video on this topic. So if you like the video, if you like our initiative, then please hit the like button, comment on it, share your thoughts, and also share with your friends. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon so that you don't miss any notification. With this, I will end the video. Jai Hind and Jai Karnataka.